Welcome back to another episode of Tobacco Road Hooper. The 2024 season is upon us and the ACC-SEC Challenge is in its first year. Looking at the ACC side, the first team I want to look at is NC State. They made it to the NCAA tournament last year. Even if they had a first round exit to Creighton, it was still a great year for them to get back to the dance and start building on it coming into this year. There were some big moves in the offseason for the Pack. They lost 6 players that started games for them last season, 4 of their top 6 scorers, 4 of their top 6 rebounders, their top 3 players in steals, not to mention their top 2 in assists. That's a lot of attrition. That's a lot of players out of this system. And they had a pretty big rebuild. There are some pretty decent transfers coming in. So let's see what it looks like after the first 3 warm-up games is what I'll call them, as they get ready to head into Thanksgiving Day at a matchup against SEC opponent Vanderbilt, followed by another SEC opponent in Ole Miss. Cue the intro.
Down to 7 seconds. You can see the time. Wittenberg. Oh, that's a long ways. 2 seconds. He's got to put it up. And he wins it. He wins it with the jumper. To the court with Archie Diacono. 3 seconds at midcourt. Jenkins gives it to Jenkins for the championship.
Now this Wolfpack team feels different than years past. This is an experienced team. 10 of the 13 players are juniors, seniors, or graduates. This should be a team that has the experience to handle adversity. They've been through a lot over the last few years, and unlike last year, where they relied heavy on the young Quavion Smith to lead the team in scoring and set the tone, or the year before, where they were leaning on Darion Sebron to lead the team, now they have DJ Burns, DJ Horn, and Casey Morsell at the helm. And with that experience comes advantages. The average amount of college games played on this team is 62, and 7 of these players started for P6 programs last season. So this team has depth, and according to Keats, that depth goes too deep at every position that he feels comfortable playing at any moment in the game. Now, I just mentioned those high-powered underclassmen that NC State's really relied on the last 2 years. Darion Sebron, Quavion Smith. And just because that player doesn't look like it's going to be the key to the whole offense doesn't mean they don't have that underclassman this year. So far, the rumor mill from practices from NC State is that Dennis Parker Jr. is a high IQ player, which we knew, a good shooter, which we expected, but he is ahead of schedule. They're saying he doesn't play like a freshman, and it's to be expected that he'll play meaningful minutes this year at either the 3 or the 4. Which really, in my mind, means they did a great job recruiting. They brought in a guy on a similar talent level to Quavion or to Darion Sebron. But because of the depth, because of the heavy upperclassmen lean this team has, they're able to put him in a role where he's not going to be the key to the entire offense. Which, if he comes back next year, will be great. He can build experience, he can learn from those older guys, and then he can step into a bigger role as a sophomore. And if he turns out to really shine and go the one-and-done route like those other guys, he can. Although after watching both of them go undrafted and then try to walk onto teams, I would hope he would come back. I would hope, unless he just has an explosive year, he comes. Or he does the opposite of what Quavion did and goes pro without risking falling in the draft. Because I think Quavion was originally projected as a first-round pick. Unless I'm wrong, you can correct me on that. Other rumors for NC State include Stanford transfer Michael O'Connell, who's apparently a very good physical defender, a great entry passer, has 2 years of eligibility left, and that leaves time where he could break into the starting lineup. I don't see it right now. I think they're pretty set on the starting 5. I'm sure there'll be a little road to the season goes due to injuries, just trying to get that chemistry to mesh up. Meanwhile, Casey Morsell's back for his last year. And while he was a great spot-up shooter last year, the offseason rumors are that he's been working to improve his scoring off the dribble. Adding versatility to his game is great. Last year, he was a guy that they could hit on the post. He was a great scorer. He was great out on the team. But now, I feel like he's going to be a guy they lean on more. We're not having a Quavion jack up half-court threes. He's not sitting up there just pulling up from wherever. This is a team that needs to play in a more cohesive offense, and he's going to be a great piece to that. There's also Butler transfer Jaden Taylor, who led Butler in scoring last year at 12.9 points per game. And people are saying that he's possibly NC State's best defender this season, which bodes well for the team. And DJ Horn also adds great shooting to NC State on the perimeter. He came from Arizona State. He's a graduate. He has a lot of experience. He's an older player. Hopefully he can mentor some of these younger guys. For the big men in the back, State brought in Ben Middlebrooks from Clemson to replace Dusan Mahorchik. And I'd say that's panning out well. It turns out he's a much better shooter than anticipated, and he seems to have a three-point shot. We'll see how that translates over to ACC play. He looks and plays very similar to Mahorchik, and he should be able to fill those minutes that Mahorchik couldn't due to injury last year. The offseason rumors about DJ Burns were supposedly that he lost a bunch of weight in the offseason, and he was just going to come out and be this slimmed down, slim 30 version of himself and just crush opponents, put all that ball skill to use. He was in a boot a few weeks ago. I'm not really seeing the slim down form. Maybe he's lost some pounds, but it's not like a crazy transformation. It's not like that. I am expecting a very similar performance to last season. If he just does that with all the pieces around him, if he can just recreate his performances from last season and maybe add a little bit to his stamina so he can get up and down the court pretty quick, not slowing down. I don't really remember him getting stuck behind on defense on any plays or not be able to translate well to the offense. But I also don't know how fast this team's going to run like a fast break that they need him down there. And then there's transfer Mohamed Daria from Mizzou. He had an up and down season last year. He was a really highly recruited JUCO player the year before. And I just had no idea what to expect from this guy coming into the year. So far, he's proven to be a solid ball handler, defender, rebounder, and Keats called him the most improved player for the summer. And so that kind of wraps up what this team can expect in terms of the sure things, the things they're hearing for practice. What we've kind of seen on the court for the first 3 games, although you have no idea how that's going to shake out once the competition moves up, to the SEC, ACC teams that are going to be playing here in a few days. But as for the question marks, NC State has not seen MJ Rice play for them yet. Rice is currently away for the team addressing personal issues. He has missed at least a month of practice. He has been associated with off-the-court team building activities. So the best case scenario here is that he's obviously not ready for the beginning of the season. He'll have an enormous amount of catching up to do. It's still expected via the insider information that he's going to play this season. His social media posts suggest that he is working out with his trainer and that he's committed to NC State. He has 3 years of eligibility left. If he gets in, he could be a game changer if he fits cohesively into the system. I had really high hopes for him coming in as a transfer. Obviously, he needs to deal with whatever personal issues he's dealing with. That is more important than playing the game of basketball, especially here at this level. Hopefully, all that gets resolved in a very good manner, and he can come in with a good headspace. I would like to see him get on the court for State this year, but given NC State's track record of bringing in high-profile guys, we've seen how many over the last few years for this school come in, join the roster, and then never make it to the court. That this could just be the one for this year. We'll have to see how that pans out. There's also Cam Woods, a 2-time transfer, most recently at NC He will need a waiver to play this season, but he has no strongly persuasive case to get one, and they did change the transfer rules for getting waivers again at the end of last year following all the COVID mishaps for people's seasons getting messed up and everything. So it is a little bit harder to get one again now. It's kind of unlikely that he'll get one approved this year, but you know how loony the NCAA is. So I wouldn't expect to see him on the court this year, but at least they'll have him in the pocket for next year. Now, the Pack did just have 3 warm-up games against the Citadel, Abilene Christian, and Charleston Southern. But they do have their first Power 5 scheduled team on the schedule for Thanksgiving Day. They got Vanderbilt a few days later, Ole Miss for the SEC-ACC Challenge. And this team has a lot of promise. The team has talent, they play hard and unselfishly, and that's a great combo. This is a team that's going to be good defensively, and the shooting will hopefully improve as the season goes on. They look like they're coming together as a unit, which is what you want to see, especially in this new era of basketball with such high turnover season to season. We have guys here coming from Mizzou, Arizona State, Butler, all trying to come together now and start trying to build a unit. Casey Morsell obviously has been at NC State for a few years, but even he came from UVA to begin with. So hopefully all of them together can form a cohesive unit and lead these underclassmen and show them the way of how this is going to work in college basketball for the years to come, as long as these guys, because honestly, you can't look at the underclassmen and say for sure they're going to be here next year. Look at what NC State's putting out as a starting 5 this year. All of these guys have transferred to this team. I don't think there's one guy. I mean, DJ Burns came from Tennessee via Winthrop, I believe. DJ Horn, Arizona State. They all transferred. So that's just what the game is now. And building that cohesiveness as a unit doesn't happen instantly, but looks good for this team. At the end of last season, I thought there'd be a huge drop-off for this team. They lost Jarkel Joyner, Quavion Smith, and they lost a lot of offense, but I feel like they've gained more on defense than they lost. This could pan out to be Coach Keats' best defensive team of his career so far. On offense, they still have weapons, don't get me wrong. In the first 3 games, there have been a different leading scorer in each of them. DJ Burns led game 1 with 16 points against the Citadel. Jaden Taylor had 22 points against Abilene Christian. And then versus Charleston Southern, DJ Horn led the pack with 18 points. This team has guys who succeeded at Power 6 conference teams within the last year. And if they really click on offense, this could be a great year for State. I had NC State as a middle-of-the-road ACC team, but honestly, I see their upside as a top 3 in the ACC. That doesn't mean they're going to get there. A lot of things have to fall their way. The team has to really come together. I mean, look at the top side of the ACC. I mean, Duke and Carolina, we're expecting great things out of them, right? This team also doesn't have a singular superstar like some of these other teams leading the way, but it does look very well-rounded, which I feel like is what you need to win in college basketball, especially at the end of the season. I mean, how many teams have we looked at with a superstar that's going to go really high in the NBA draft who didn't make it all the way to the title game? It happens all the time. Whereas a lot of these teams that are more well-rounded, I mean, look at UConn for last year, that run FAU made. All these teams are just well-rounded, well-coached teams that can make really deep runs. It'll be interesting to see how the next few weeks pan out. I think the games to look forward to see how this team's really doing is going to be Tennessee on December 16th. By then, we should have a real idea of what this team's going to be. The 2 upcoming games against Ole Miss and Vanderbilt will really set the standard between them. I think Boston College is the only other Power 6 team they're going to match up with between then and there. But this is where they'll start really getting their cohesion. Don't freak out if they lose a game. I mean, Duke just lost to Arizona. It's a learning experience. They have to lose. Probably, this team's not going to go undefeated all the way to the end. This isn't a Kentucky of years past. They will need to face that adversity, and I'd say facing it early and out-of-conference play is probably the best way to do it. So that maybe when you get to conference play and you get up against those hard teams, that leadership, that senior mentality can really rise to the top. I'd say this team definitely has end-of-season tournament hopes so far. I would hope to see them dance again, preferably past the first round. I'd like to know what you think. Are you excited for this team? Are you scared of this team? Do you think this team is going to be a flash in the pan and then fall off by the end of the season? Or do you truly just not believe Kevin Keats is a winner? Let me know what you think. And for you Pack fans out there, go Pack and good luck.